energy recovery system, also known as ERS, is an element of a Formula 1 car's hybrid power unit where it turns an engine from a gas guzzler into a futuristic hyperspace rocket. Mastering this system is very important, as it could mean the difference between winning a race or finishing dead last. And after a large amount of requests from the community, Codemasters have changed the ERS on F1 2020 to mirror the system to that of a real-life Formula 1 car. So here at Veloce, we are going to teach you the changes of ERS and how to become an energy-saving professional. Tip 1. Background. Before we jump into how ERS can be optimized best for you, here's an extremely watered down lesson into how the energy recovery system actually works. Hold on to your hats, as it's quite complicated. In 2014, Formula 1 made the switch from naturally aspirated V8 engines to V6 hybrid power units. These power units are still driven by an engine at its core, but are then further boosted by electrical energy. This energy is harvested in two ways, both under braking by the MGU-K and from the turbo by the MGU-H. Once harvested, the energy is then stored in a big, juicy battery, ready for deployment. This energy can be deployed in certain areas of the track for a straight line speed and lap time advantage, basically like a complicated mushroom on Mario Kart. How and when this energy is used is completely up to the driver and will vary depending on the session and strategy. Tip 2. HUD breakdown. Following on from the previous point, there are three key parts of the ERS that you as a driver need to keep track of. These are deployment, harvesting, and energy storage. Much like last year, all of this information can be found in the bottom right corner of your heads-up display or on your car dashboard. Along the top, you will find a yellow bar and a number percentage. This represents your overall amount of ERS charge and will deplete from right to left as you burn through your energy. Below this, you will find two smaller bars, the green deployment bar on the left-hand side, which, much like the overall battery charge, will deplete from right to left as you burn through your allocated amount of energy per lap. Finally, the bar on the right will rise from left to right as you harvest energy under braking. All three of these bars will need to be tracked carefully as you drive to make sure you aren't using too much or too little energy in your race weekend scenario. Tip 3, the return of KERS. Before we get into the third tip, we should all rejoice. Gone are the days of switching your ERS settings every 3.5 seconds for every single corner of every single lap. However, there are still 4 ERS modes for your car, but for this year's games, these settings are much more restricted depending on which race weekend session you are in. On top of this, much unlike F1 2019, each ERS settings are optimized for each track by Codemasters. This means no running out of ERS 5 corners before the end of the lap. The 4 settings available to a driver include 0 none, 1 medium, 2 hot lap, and 3 overtake. When in practice, you have free range of all 4 of these ERS modes in order to simulate qualifying and race runs, as well as the ability to conserve your ERS components as you practice the circuit. During qualifying, you will have the choice between none and hot lap, in which you can switch between to save as much ERS as possible before posting a flyer. And finally, in the race, you have a choice of medium and overtake modes, meaning, as we said earlier, you can focus on those full send dive bombs. This year, we see a familiar friend of racers return, as in F1 2020, Codemasters have introduced an overtake button. Remind you of something? But hold your horses. This overtake button is slightly different to the KERS we all know and love from 7 years ago. The overtake button is a switch you can toggle on and off to put your car from mode 1 into mode 3 to gain a straight line speed advantage. Once pressed, the once orange overtake button will illuminate green and will deplete your ERS battery and deployment allocation more quickly. Tip 4, deploying the goods. Okay, so we have an overtake button, but how many times should we be pressing this a lap? And whereabouts on the track should we be pressing it? Typically, the most effective way to use your ERS is in lower gears, coming out of traction zones, as the electrical energy will provide more torque with the combustion engine to drive up through the gears as quickly as possible. On a corner exit, wait until the rear tires have gained traction and the car is in a straight line. If the car doesn't have good traction and is still rotating, putting extra energy into the rear tires will cause more wheel spin and potentially spin the car. Once you are confident to plant the throttle, toggle the overtake button on. Go through and up into 5th or 6th gear. At this point, the effectiveness of ERS is diluted by the drag of the car as you build up speed. Most circuits on the calendar, such as Bahrain, Baku and Abu Dhabi, have 2 to 3 long straights, which are the most effective places on track to gain lap time. Some circuits you will find there are multiple places to deploy ERS, and you will subsequently find yourself burning through ERS faster than you can harvest it. These tracks you'll have to be a little more conservative than usual, but you shouldn't just deploy energy at the same points of the track every single lap. Certain race scenarios, such as the race start or overtaking defending a position, would mean you should change your ERS deployment. For example, if you are starting on pole position, your aim is to get to the first corner first, make a gap to the field and break the 1 second barrier to stop P2 from gaining DRS. So in this scenario, you should be sacrificing a lot of ERS to pull away from the field. This will leave you with less ERS to use it for the following laps. However, we think it's a sacrifice worth taking, as you will slowly harvest this energy back through your opening stint. Tip 5, things to remember. Before we wrap up this video, here are a few other pointers you should keep in mind whilst trying to utilize ERS the best you can. Those career mode and my team fans out there, remember your ERS habits will have an impact on your components as you go through the season. Using too much ERS across your sessions will damage your MGUK. Saving too much ERS across your sessions will damage your energy store, and running your engine over the recommended temperatures will also damage your MGUH. As each of these components become damaged, they may begin to malfunction or fail altogether, potentially ruining all your hard work during the race. Don't be afraid to be greedy with your energy. You will waste more time stuck in a battle with another driver compared to you using extra ERS to clear a driver to have clear air. And probably the most important pointer of all, don't forget to turn your overtake off. It sounds like a silly pointer, but forgetting to turn your overtake off and you'll be spending the next couple of laps slow, losing positions and wishing you were paying attention. And that's it. Those are our 5 tips to help you better understand your ERS on F1 2020. Are there any parts of the game that you need help with? Answer in the comment section below. Also, don't forget to subscribe for more F1 2020 content on the Veloce Esports YouTube channel. But for now, I've been Haydon from Veloce, and we'll see you next time.